So take out a loan, my sister suggested when I refused to fund her lavish wedding. Not my problem, I replied. 3 weeks later, I got a call. I never thought I'd be the one to shut the door on my own family. But there I was, watching my mother's face crumple in disbelief as I told her and my half-sister to pack their things and leave my house. My house? The word still felt strange in my mouth. My name is Sophia and I'm 28 years old. For most of my life, I've been the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who would always say yes when everyone else said no. It started when I was just a kid. My father died when I was 12, leaving me his house and a modest inheritance in a trust that I could access at 18. My mother, Diane, remarried quickly, too quickly. Within a year, she had a new husband and soon after, a new baby, my half-sister, Lily. I still remember the first time I heard my mother say, "Sophia, you need to share with your sister. She doesn't have what you have." I was 13, Lily was an infant. What could I possibly have that she needed? As it turned out, everything. When I turned 18, I gained access to my inheritance and full ownership of my father's house. The house where we all lived. The house where my mother initially paid rent just until I get back on my feet, she'd said. 6 months later, the rent check stopped coming. "I'm a little short this month," she'd tell me. "I'll make it up next month." Next month never came. Instead, she began borrowing from my inheritance, small amounts at first. A few hundred for car repairs, 1,000 for dental work Lily needed, always with promises to pay it back, promises that evaporated like morning dew. My father had been careful, meticulous even. He'd set everything up so I would be taken care of if anything happened to him. What he hadn't accounted for was my inability to stand up for myself. I watched as Lily grew up with every advantage I never had: dance classes, gymnastics, private tutoring, all gradually shifted onto my shoulders through my mother's careful manipulation. "The dance studio is offering a scholarship," she'd say. "We just need to cover the costume fee." The scholarship would mysteriously fall through, but by then Lily was already excited and I'd end up covering everything. For college, my mother actually applied for loans in her name. She made a big show of it, spread loan documents across the kitchen table, talked about sacrificing for her daughter's future. 2 weeks before the first tuition payment was due, she collapsed in tears at the kitchen table. "They denied my loan application," she sobbed. "My credit isn't good enough. Lily's future is ruined unless I stepped in, unless I paid." Always at the last minute, always in a crisis, always positioned so I felt like the hero rather than the victim. I worked 2 jobs to put myself through community college while Lily expected and received a fully funded ride to an expensive private university. I paid for it all, every semester, every textbook, every spring break trip that I was never invited on. My chest tightens even now thinking about it. The casual way my mother would hand me Lily's tuition bill, the assumption that I would handle it, the look of surprise if I ever questioned it. "But she's your sister," my mother would say. "Don't you want her to have opportunities?" Of course I did, but what about my opportunities? What about my dreams? They never asked. The breaking point came 3 weeks ago. Lily burst into the house, my house, waving her left hand in the air, a massive diamond catching the light. She was engaged to Jake, her boyfriend of 2 years, a nice enough guy from what little I knew of him. What followed was a whirlwind of wedding talk, venues, dresses, guest lists, and costs, so many costs. It started with casual mentions. Wouldn't the country club be a perfect venue? Wouldn't it be amazing to have doves released after the ceremony? Wouldn't live music be better than a DJ? I nodded along, distracted by work deadlines and bills that never seemed to end. I didn't realize I was being set up. The ambush came on a Sunday. I was exhausted from pulling a weekend shift at my second job. All I wanted was sleep. Instead, I walked into my living room to find my mother and Lily sitting on the couch, a large binder open between them. "Sophia, we need to talk about the wedding budget," my mother said, her voice sweet but her eyes calculating. My stomach dropped. I knew that look. I sat down across from them, my body tense. "What about it?" Lily flipped open the binder. Inside were printouts, quotes, and glossy brochures. She pushed it toward me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. So we've worked out all the details. The country club is holding a date for us in June. The band needs a deposit next week. The florist is giving us a deal if we book by Friday. My head was spinning. Wait, you've already booked things? Well, not officially, my mother cut in. Not until we finalize payment. I relaxed slightly. So you figured out how to pay for it all, that's great. My mother and Lily exchanged glances. We tried everything, my mother said, her voice taking on that familiar martyred tone. Jake's parents can only cover the honeymoon. I applied for a personal loan, but my credit, she trailed off dramatically. And I've asked all my friends if their parents have connections for discounts, Lily added. No one can help enough. My mother reached across and squeezed my hand. I was going to take out a loan against my retirement, but the financial advisor said it would be devastating for my future. I felt the familiar pressure building, the trap closing. We wouldn't ask if we had any other option, my mother said, tears welling in her eyes. But you're our only hope, I blinked once, twice. So, my checks, who else would pay for it? Lily laughed as if I'd told a joke. You know we've tried everything else. I stared at the figure at the bottom of the budget sheet. $65,000, more than I made in a year, money I didn't have. I can't afford this, I said simply. The words felt foreign in my mouth. I never said no. Their faces changed in unison, surprise, then irritation. What do you mean you can't afford it? My mother demanded. You own this house, you have your father's inheritance, you have 2 jobs. The inheritance paid for Lily's education, I said quietly. The house has a mortgage and my jobs barely cover the bills. Lily's eyes narrowed. You're just saying that because you're jealous. You're almost 30 and not even dating anyone. You're jealous that I found someone before you did. Her words hit me like a physical blow. I felt my cheeks burn. That's not true, I whispered. Then prove it, she countered. This is what family does for each other. You know, Dad, she always called her stepfather Dad, would want you to do this for me. My mother nodded. Your father would be so disappointed in your selfishness right now. My father, who had worked so hard to provide for me, who had left everything to ensure I would be okay. Something snapped inside me. My father, I said, my voice surprisingly steady, would be disappointed that I've let you manipulate me for 10 years. The room went silent. Excuse me, my mother finally said. You heard me. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my ears. I've paid for everything, this house, Lily's education, her car, her spring breaks, her emergency credit card bills that were never actual emergencies. I stood up, suddenly unable to sit still. I've given up so much for you both and you've never once said thank you, never once acknowledged the sacrifices I've made. So take out a loan, Lily suggested, as if it were the most obvious solution in the world. It's not like you have anything else to spend money on, no husband, no kids, no real life. No real life? The words echoed in my head. She was right, I didn't have a life, I had responsibilities, I had burdens, I had obligations that were never my choice. No, I said, the word hung in the air between us, unfamiliar but powerful. What did you say? My mother asked, her voice dangerously low. I said no, I'm not paying for the wedding, not $65,000, not $6,500, not 65 cents. Lily's face crumpled. You can't do this to me, this is my special day, and I've had 10 years of ordinary days where I've paid for everything, I countered. Find another way. What followed was ugly, tears, accusations, character assassinations. My mother called me selfish, ungrateful, a disappointment. Lily screamed that I was ruining her life, that I'd always been jealous of her, that I was a bitter, lonely woman who couldn't stand to see her happy. Maybe they were right, maybe I was bitter. 10 years of resentment doesn't disappear overnight. But in that moment, watching them rage, I felt something new, something powerful, freedom. I want you both out of my house, I said when they finally paused for breath. They stared at me in shock. You can't be serious, my mother said. I've never been more serious in my life. My voice was calm now, resolved. This is my house, my name is on the deed, you have 30 days to find somewhere else to live. You would throw your own mother out on the street? The tears came then, right on cue, the same tears that had manipulated me for years. You can move in with Jake, I suggested. Since you're planning such an elaborate wedding, I assume he has a place. Lily's mouth opened and closed like a fish. We're not ready for that step. The irony almost made me laugh, ready for a $65,000 wedding but not ready to live together. Not my problem, I said. The words tasted like freedom. I walked out of the room and up the stairs to my bedroom. I closed the door behind me and sank to the floor, my back against the wood. My hands were shaking. My chest was tight, but for the first time in years I could breathe. The next day, I contacted a lawyer. He confirmed what I already knew: the house was mine and I had every right to evict them. He drafted a formal notice which I left on the kitchen table. The backlash was immediate and brutal. My phone exploded with messages from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. How could I do this to my own mother, to my sister? What kind of monster was I? My mother had been busy working the family phones, spinning a tale of my cruelty and her victimhood. My aunt, who hadn't called me on my birthday in 5 years, suddenly had opinions about my character. My cousins, who only contacted me when they needed favors, were now moral authorities on family obligation. One message from my uncle was particularly telling. Your mother told us she's been trying to support herself all these years while you've hoarded your inheritance. Now you're throwing them out because they asked for a little help with Lily's wedding? Unbelievable. I stared at that message for a long time. The alternate reality my mother had created was breathtaking in its audacity. Then came the legal threats. My mother left a voicemail, her voice sickly sweet. Honey, I've been talking to a lawyer friend. Did you know that after living somewhere for 10 years I might have squatter's rights, and since I've been a caretaker for this property I might be entitled to compensation if you force me out. Maybe we should discuss this before you do something you'll regret. I forwarded the message to my own lawyer, who assured me her claims were baseless. But the intent was clear: intimidation, manipulation, anything to maintain control. I didn't respond to any of them. I couldn't find the words to explain 10 years of silent sacrifice, of dreams deferred, of watching my own life slip away while funding someone else's. For the next 2 weeks, I lived in a war zone. Lily refused to speak to me except to slam doors and accidentally break things that belonged to me. My mother alternated between icy silence, tearful pleas, and thinly veiled threats about what the family would do if I went through with this. Where will we go? She asked one night, catching me in the kitchen. We can't afford rent anywhere decent. You should have thought of that before you spent 10 years not paying me rent, I replied. The words were harsh, but I couldn't soften them anymore. I couldn't soften myself. I raised you, she whispered. I changed your diapers, I held you when you were sick. And I've paid for everything since I was 18, I countered. We're more than even. She looked at me like she didn't recognize me. Maybe she didn't. Maybe I was finally becoming someone new, someone who valued herself. They left a week later, moving in with Jake after all. I came home from work to find the house eerily quiet. Most of their things were gone. They'd left messes for me to clean up, of course. One final passive-aggressive gesture. I walked from room to room, feeling the space differently. The house seemed bigger somehow. Lighter, mine. That night, I ordered takeout just for myself. I ate it on the couch, watching a show I wanted to watch. I left the dishes in the sink because I felt like it. Small rebellions that felt enormous. The silence was deafening at first. After years of mediating conflicts and walking on eggshells, the peace felt almost wrong. But each day, it got a little easier. Each day, I remembered a little more of who I was before I became everyone's caretaker. I started therapy. My therapist helped me understand that what I'd experienced was financial abuse, that my mother had weaponized my grief over my father to control me, that Lily had been raised to see me as a resource, not a sister. You're not wrong to protect yourself, my therapist told me during one session. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's necessary. I let those words sink in, let myself believe them little by little. 3 weeks after they moved out, I got the call, Lily sobbing hysterically. Jake had called off the wedding, had asked them both to leave his apartment. He said we were using him, she cried. He said I was spoiled and entitled. This is all your fault. If you had just paid for the wedding like you were supposed to, none of this would have happened. Even now, she couldn't see it, couldn't see how her expectations had driven away someone who loved her. Where are you going to go? I asked, not because I was offering, but because I needed to know they weren't coming back here. We're in a hotel now, she sniffled. But we can only afford a few days. Mom's talking about moving back in with Grandma in Florida, my grandmother, another woman who had enabled my mother's behavior for decades. I need help, Sophia, Lily said, her voice smaller now. I need money for the hotel, for food, for the flight to Florida. My heart raced, my palms sweated. The old me would have said yes immediately, would have apologized for causing them inconvenience, would have emptied my bank account to fix their problems. No, I said again. The word was getting easier to say. What do you mean, no? Her voice rose in pitch, indignant even now. I mean, no, Lily, I'm not giving you money. I'm not solving this for you. You and Mom need to figure it out yourselves. But we're family, she wailed, the magic word that had controlled me for so long. Yes, we are, I agreed, but family should lift each other up, not drain each other dry. I hung up as she was mid-protest, then I blocked her number, blocked my mother's too. It wasn't forever, just until I was stronger, until I was ready to engage with them as equals, not as their personal ATM. That night, I sat on the porch of my house, truly my house now, and watched the sunset. The sky blazed with oranges and pinks, then faded to purple, then to the deep blue of early evening. Stars appeared one by one, twinkling into existence. I thought about my father, about the legacy he'd tried to leave me, not just a house or money, but security, independence, the freedom to build my own life. It had taken me 10 years to claim that gift, 10 years of detouring through other people's expectations, but I was finally on my own path. My phone buzzed with a text. Not Lily or my mother, I'd blocked them both, but my cousin, the only family member who hadn't attacked me for my decision. Proud of you, the message read. It's about time. I smiled into the growing darkness. It was about time, time to figure out who Sophia was when she wasn't paying for everyone else's dreams, time to discover my own. I took a deep breath of the cool evening air. My chest felt lighter. The constant knot of anxiety that had lived between my shoulder blades for years had loosened. For the first time in a decade, I was just Sophia, not a bank, not a caretaker, not a stepping stone for someone else's happiness, just me, and that was enough. The hardest part of setting boundaries isn't drawing the line. It's holding it when those who have benefited from your lack of boundaries push back. They'll call you selfish because you're no longer sacrificing yourself for them. They'll call you cruel because you're finally being kind to yourself. Let them. Their words only have the power you give them. To everyone who's lost themselves in the process of saving someone else, you can't pour from an empty cup. Fill your own first. It's not selfish, it's survival. I don't know what the future holds for my relationship with Lily and my mother. Perhaps someday we'll find a way to connect as equals, perhaps not. What I do know is that I won't go backward. I won't shrink myself to make room for their expectations. I won't set myself on fire to keep them warm. My father gave me a foundation. Now I'm building something new on it, something that's just for me, and for the first time in my adult life, I'm excited to see what that will be.